Thank you for joining us, not only here in the room, but as you've heard, the many people in large numbers online across the Alliance. Goedemorgen to all. As somebody who knows a little about events, people say, can I just start by congratulating the Public Diplomacy Division and the 3 Dutch partners for putting together quite a show. What a great public forum. I just hope all of you forget how smooth it was to get in here until you come to Munich in February. So to start us off this morning, we are honored to have the Secretary General with us. We know this is probably the busiest day of the year, so thank you for taking 30 minutes out of your busy schedule. And it's particularly brave of you because other SGs that have sat down with me in the recent past have, hopefully temporarily, ended up as finance ministers in Norway.
Yeah.
Now desperately trying to find the money that you are calling for. May this destiny be spared.
This is Norway, which has some money. Yeah.
So let me tell you all how this is going to work the next 27 minutes and 20 seconds. I came prepared with many really clever and really hard questions. Yes. And I don't have to, because your staff has just told me that a week ago you asked citizens across the Alliance to hand in questions. Luckily for me, they're actually better than my own. Unluckily for you, they're actually harder. So I will warm you up with 2 questions before we get to the tough cookies. And then we'll try to get through as many as we can in the remaining minutes. So, Secretary General, you have taken the take your work home approach to a totally new level. How does it feel to host your first ever summit here in your hometown?
But I feel so proud that it is in my hometown. And some Dutch journalists think that this was very well prepared. In 2022, when we started with NATO to have this lobby, to have the summit. This was at the Madrid summit, to have the NATO summit in The Hague. We thought about the 75th in 2024. But the US basically said, well, no, never. That will go to Washington. You can get the one after in 2025. Okay, also fine, but I was not able to plan for a summit and elections and for me become a Secretary General all at the same time. So, yes, I'm a brilliant planner, but not so good. But it feels really great to host a summit here in The Hague. Now, not me personally, there's now, of course, Dick Schoof doing it, the new Prime Minister, but I'm really proud. I live in this city, I was born in this city, I was raised in this city. I love this city, so it's very special.
Perfect. So central to the summit is, and that is also very clever, the Hague investment plan. Branding wherever one looks, as agreed by the defense ministers a little earlier this month. Talk us through the plan. Why is it important and what does it mean for the Alliance?
Yeah, this is really important. And let me just highlight what happened yesterday. Germany announcing that Germany wants to reach the 3.5% of core defense spending and therefore the overall 5% not in 2035. They want to reach it in 2029. Sweden announced last week they want to reach in the coming years the 3.5%. Norway, under the wise leadership of course, Jonas Støre, the Prime Minister, but also with the help of the Finance Minister, one Jens Stoltenberg, we know him very well, will reach the 3.5% and therefore the 5% in the coming years. So these are the first announcements now coming in. We know that countries like Poland and Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Finland, they are very close, already over the threshold, and many others will follow. So. And why is this important? Because we know that Russia is reconstituting itself at a pace, at a speed which is really staggering and frightening. And so we have to stand ready. If we don't, we cannot defend ourselves in 3 to 5 years from now. Today they know if they try anything, our reaction will be devastating. But we have to make sure that in 3 to 5 years they won't try. So if we want to prevent war, spend more. Peace through strength, we can put every label on it, but they are all true. So this is really historic.
Perfect. And I mean, we keep talking about defense spending. We also keep talking about the defense industry. And we've been talking about the defense industry for ages. What's different this time?
What's different this time is that it is serious and that the defense industry now finally knows what we need. So in the past, when I came in October and we had a big meeting in November with the CEOs of the big defense industry companies in this beautiful residence in Brussels, they told me, yeah, Mark, but we need 10-year contracts. I told them, we can't, because in the US, you have a yearly cycle. In Europe, you will have election-to-election cycles. Forget about 10-year contracts. But now what we have is the spending plans. We know the money is there. Take Germany again. They will more or less double their money spent on defense compared between 2021 and 2029. So that is from about 70 billion to about 150 billion. This is just one country in NATO doing this. So we know the money is there. And because we have finalized the NATO defense planning process, where Pierre von Jay, who is sitting here as the Allied Commander Transformation, but of course also the International Starboard Headquarters with all the allies has worked very hard on this to assess what are the capabilities each of the allies need to deliver if Russia or anyone else would attack us. From there, we came to the conclusion that we needed this 3.5% core defense spending. So the industry now knows this. What we are seeing at the moment is that finally, but this can still be done at a more rapid pace, they're putting in the extra production lines, the extra shifts. But again, more needs to happen. We will have an industry forum later today. I'm constantly in contact with the defense industry. So I'm hopeful we will get there. But the Russians are really doing this. I mean, this figure, I think it is for them the 152 ammunition. They are producing in 3 months what the whole of NATO is producing in a year. And they are 25 times smaller as an economy than the overall NATO economy. So this is not sustainable long term. So we have to ramp that up. And you might say, yeah, but you'd also need drones and AI. Absolutely. We will do all that. Yes, exactly. I was seeing it here. No, but we will absolutely do all that. But every general is telling me, and please not yes, that I'm right, that still, when it comes to warfare, the base is stockpiles of ammunition. And yes, then we also need, of course, the drones and the AI and all the new technology.
You feel warmed up now?
Yes.
So we'll go to the questions.
Oh, this was easy. Yeah, it was the easy part.
So I think you'll see them back on the screen here. We'll try to get through as many of them as possible. The first one is from Jose Pereira from Portugal. With the US strikes on Iran's nuclear sites, alongside the Israel-Iran war, the Hamas-Israel conflict, the Ukraine-Russia war, how can NATO defend its allies?
NATO can defend its allies by two things. One is a deal. A deal we struck in 1949 when NATO was established that an attack on one will be an attack on all. But not just that. That's important. That's the Article 5. But what we have in NATO is the structures, the command structures, the intelligence structures, everything in place to back that up. So it's not just that I will tell you I will come to your rescue if you get attacked. And we will see then when it happens how I will do that. We have everything in place, everything arranged, everything organized to make sure that we can do that. So NATO was not established only to fight the Russians if they would attack us. They are our most immediate long-term threats, immediate and long-term. But we also see China reconstituting itself. We see what China, North Korea and Iran are doing in supporting the war effort of Russia, the unprovoked war against Ukraine. So this is very serious business. Iran providing the drones technology to Russia and the drones themselves. And we see the impact they are having now in Ukrainian cities every day, killing innocent people. So this is all interconnected. So what we need to do is to make sure that we have the plans, the people, the money in place, and then we can protect our 32 allies.
Perfect. You just mentioned people in place. Emmanuel Jacob from Belgium has asked how to translate increased defense spending in additional troop numbers, including better recruitment practices and retention policies.
Very good question, Emmanuel. And this is happening as we speak in most NATO allied countries. I know from my own country that the state secretary here in this country is working on this day and night, how to make sure that you have actually the people in place to make it happen. You will see some countries moving to general conscription. Other countries are taking different views on this. Of course, this is for each ally to decide how they will do this when it comes to the HR policies. But everything is geared to make sure that we have the troop numbers. We heard from Germany. Again, sorry that I come back to that example.
I like that.
Yeah, and I know, and it's not to slime with you, but
it's working.
It's working. You're really very kind. But they need in the short term about an extra, is it 60,000 troops? And longer term it will be even more. So that means that you need the recruitment process in place, you need to have the salary structures in place, the money, etc., etc. But of course that's there now, because if you spend not 70 billion but 150 billion in the case of Germany on defense, then the money is there also to improve the salaries you pay to your men and women in uniform.
So Jean Catalem from the United States of America says Poland shows that European publics remain deeply reluctant to paying these costs that you've just mentioned of higher defense spending. Are we at risk of a NATO Sadu gap?
No, I would not agree with Sien on this, because when you look at the latest opinion polling done in NATO, you see that many people, and it is getting to really high numbers, are supporting the fact that yes, there is a direct threat from Russia. That yes, if we do not invest now, we are really at risk that the Russians might try something against NATO territory in 3, 5 or 7 years. And therefore there is large-scale support. I see it in my own country. I've seen the polling data this morning in NRC newspaper in this country saying that there is now a majority of population really supporting the extra money spent on defense, because this is the great thing about democracies. You cannot fool people. So the people living in this country and all other NATO allies, they know that there's a change. That we are not living in happy land after the Berlin Wall came down. We are living in much more dangerous times, and there are enemies, adversaries who might want to attack us. And we have to make sure that we defend our beautiful way of life and systems and our values.
See, in Munich, we love the elephant in the room, as you know from your many times there. There is, a lot being said about our enemies, adversaries, rivals. But there also seem to be a few doubts about our friends. And let me pull up the next question. Maria Elena Guzman from the United Kingdom and Spain. How do you assess the reliability of the United States as a NATO ally? And what steps can NATO take to maintain unity and trust within the alliance?
Now, this question I got many times, particularly since January. And basically were two questions. Question number one was, Mark, is the US still with us? Yes, they are. You might want to turn on your television when Emmanuel Macron is visiting the Oval Office, when Keir Starmer is visiting the Oval Office, when Giorgia Meloni is... Hey, by the way, when I was visiting, you might want to see that footage. There is total commitment by the US President and the US senior leadership to NATO. However, it comes with an expectation. An expectation is that we will finally deal with this huge pebble in the shoe, this huge irritant, which is that we are not spending enough as Europeans and Canadians. And they want us to equalize with what the US is spending. And when it comes to this famous 5%, the US is basically there. When you look at what they spend on core, but also on all the defense and security-related investments. But they want to equalize what they are spending with us. And for us, of course, the main argument is not to equalize. Yes, that is important because it is fair. But the real reason to do this, the first reason to do this, is the Russia threat. So these things come together. And then the second question was, okay, so the US will stay with us. They are committed to Article 5. We believe you, Mark. But hey, then they might pull down the troop numbers in Europe without making pre-announcements. And Sakur, our most senior commander in NATO, might be a European, a Brit or German leading the military side of the alliance. There are many reasons why it is an American, because America is delivering all these enablers to NATO, also in Europe. So you want a US senior general to lead the military alliance on the military side. I said, well, okay, I don't think it will happen. And hey, guess what? The new Supreme Allied Commander has been announced. And last time I checked his passport, it was US. So that didn't happen. So my message to my European colleagues is stop worrying so much. Start to make sure that you get the investment plans done, that you get the industrial base up and running, that the support for Ukraine remains at a high level. Luckily, it is still today. I mean, this is what you should work on, and stop running around being worried about the US. They are with us.
There are definitely other places we need to be worried about. Next elephant in the room, Ukraine. Let me combine two questions. Here from the Netherlands, Vicha Kolbeck says, with global attention shifting to the Middle East, how is NATO ensuring that Ukraine remains a priority? And later on, we have a question from Misha Ayev from Ukraine. How close are we to the solution of the Ukrainian conflict? And let me add a third bit to that question. We were fortunate enough to have the Ukrainian foreign minister with us yesterday at dinner at this wonderful Klingendahl Institute. And
Andrei Sibia was there.
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
So, and he said that his great hope for the summit, obviously, is that the president gets some face time, but also that there will be concrete commitments to Ukraine. So what can you already say? How close are we to solution? Will there be concrete commitments? And will the Middle East shift have a negative impact.
If we would not be able to deal with, yes, the Middle East, which is very big and commanding all the headlines, and Ukraine at the same time, we should not in the business of politics and military at all. If you can only deal with one issue at a time, that would be, then let other people take over. So I think we're all in this room and listening in, and the senior politicians and military people are able to deal with two issues at the same time. I don't think that's too much to ask. And by the way, we can, and the evidence is there, because at this moment, the Europeans and the Canadians have pledged for this year 35 billion in military support to Ukraine. Last year it was just over 50 billion for the full year. Now before we reach half year, it is already at 35 billion. And there are even others saying it is already close to 40 billion. The numbers I can now commit to are over 35. But I hope, of course, that the one saying it is close to 40 is right. But at least it is over 35. So that is fantastic news. And that means that the support for Ukraine is still at a level even higher than it was last year. And we also see a shift of the burden from the US more to the Canadians and the Europeans, which I think is fair, that we take a bigger share of this burden as Europeans and Canadians from the United States. When it comes to peace, I cannot predict when it will happen. I want to commend President Trump for breaking the deadlock. When he came in office, he started dialogue with President Putin, and I always thought that was crucial. And there's only one leader who could break the deadlock originally, and that had to be the American president, because he is the most powerful leader in the world and leading 25% of world GDP and the mightiest and most powerful military in the world. So him doing that, breaking that deadlock, was very important. But this doesn't mean that we are now getting to a deal immediately. It will take time. But it helps, and in the meantime, we have to make sure that Ukraine has everything to stay in the fight, that Ukraine is in the strongest possible position when real talks would start. So I'm not talking about these talks which this Russian historian is now leading, going back to 1,000 years ago, and then who was responsible for whatever in Istanbul now twice. And this is not serious business, and I was very proud of the Ukrainians that they sent the senior team there, with the foreign minister, the defense minister, the chief of staff, so they took this serious. But clearly Russia was not serious, but hopefully serious talks will start in the near future. And then we have to make sure that whatever the long-term ceasefire or the peace deal on Ukraine will be, that it is lasting, that it is durable, that Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin will never ever again try to catch 1 square kilometer, or for the Americans 1 square mile of Ukrainian territory.
Let me add. Yes, I think that deserves a round of applause. Let me add one more quick point on Ukraine, if I may.
It's not on the list.
I know. You took my cards away, so how would I know? See, what Andrei said yesterday is that for the past 3 years or 2.5 years, Ukraine, they've been security consumers within Europe. But they're slowly but surely turning into security producers. What is it that we at NATO, that you at NATO HQ are learning from the conflict in Ukraine?
Enormous, a lot. So we have this joint organization now in Poland, JTEC, which is capturing all the lessons from the war. And of course, we are learning day in, day out what the Ukrainians are doing. They also are learning that and seeing that the Russians are copying what the Ukrainians are doing in 2 or 3 weeks. So it is a learning cycle which basically takes 2 or 3 weeks at a time. It forces us at NATO and in each allied country to really reconsider, think through all our basic defense concepts compared to 3.5 years ago. So that's one. Second, don't forget, Ukraine is one of the biggest producers of weaponry in Europe. It has a huge defense industrial base. The problem is there is an untapped potential of about $35 billion, which they still could develop. And the good thing now is, we mentioned Jens Stoltenberg before, and Norway, but have you also mentioned Denmark and Lithuania, that many countries who have seen their own stockpiles getting more and more depleted are now also investing in this defense industrial base in Ukraine, so that Ukraine can therefore produce the weapons it needs to produce for the warfare. It's also helping them economically. It is helping us long term, because the defense industrial base will be there after the war, also, of course, for Europeans and other allies to buy from. Let's not forget, by the way, that Turkey has a very big defense industrial base. We sometimes forget, but they have. I have visited some of their companies. It's really impressive. That's one of the reasons we have to make sure that the Turkish defense industrial base is as closely connected as possible to the UK, Norway, and the European Union. Let's not have these fences drawn up within NATO. It won't help. But back to Ukraine. And then, of course, we have the Czech ammunition initiative, which started now 1.5 years ago in February 2024, and which is really successful and making sure that the 155 ammunition and other deliveries into Ukraine keep on going.
Let's go back to the questions. I'm not sure how the UK sneaked in a second question, but they did. How does the Secretary General, EU, view the situation on the alliance southern border, given Russian influence in Africa, persistent conflict, climate change, fragile governments, and migration?
This is one of the reasons why we constantly have to do the 360 degrees. Because, as I said, our long-term direct threat is Russia, but it is not the only threat. There might be others. China is not having now 4 of its defense companies in the top 10 defense companies worldwide, only because of the parades in Beijing. They might want to do some stuff with their military capabilities going forward. And we know the risks we run with Taiwan, and that if that would happen, that obviously Xi Jinping will call his junior colleague in the Kremlin and tell him, hey, Vladimir, I back you up so much now, and you know who is really in power in this relationship. It's not you, it's the one on this side of the line. Can you keep them busy in Europe? So that's China, Russia. Then when it comes to the southern border, it's crucial. And this is something Spain and Portugal and Italy and Greece have consistently fought for. That NATO is very much concentrating on the southern border. We are opening an office in Jordan. Of course, we have the NATO mission in Iraq. We are helping in the G5 Sahel. Mauritania is a close partner, for example. We know that whole region, when you look at the map, China and Russia are rapidly, when it comes to Africa and the G5 Sahel, but also generally Africa, mid and north of Africa, the Chinese and the Russians are rapidly gaining influence. So let's not be naive. That's why we have a special representative. I personally have a special representative for the southern neighborhood. For the south, and therefore southern neighborhood and the southern flank. And he is constantly traveling, this guy who is really excellent, traveling all these countries and making sure that wherever NATO can help, we do.
Perfect. We've around 5 minutes left. 2 more questions, I think. Both
Who's standing after me?
The Prime Minister.
Oh,
the real Prime
Minister.
Minister.
We can take more time. No. I know it. Okay.
So, next question from Estonia, Eva Zula. How do we speed up the adoption of emerging and disruptive technologies, including for use in missions and operations?
But this is crucial. And as I said, yes, this is all happening, but let's not forget about the base, and that's the ammunition, because I'm really worried about ammunition. I'm happy that the UK is now building 6 new ammunition factories as part of their defense plans launched 3 weeks ago. But of course, when it comes to emerging and disruptive technologies, we have to be at the forefront here. Again, the war in Ukraine, the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine, is giving Ukraine and the whole of NATO a lot of insights when it comes to exactly this question. We also know that, of course, this has an impact on cyber, on hybrid. Is one of the reasons why this is on the agenda today and tomorrow, hybrid, cyber, etc. To make sure that as an alliance, we can not only fight the visible wars, but that we are also able to confront any adversary when it comes to that. And one of the things Pierre did together with Chris Cavoli, when on the 25th of December, we had this attack between Finland and Estonia along the sea cables, is that we brought together this Baltic Sentry activity, which is now sailing the Baltic Sea. The Russians hate it. They really hate it, so I love it. And this is basically to say, well, hey, guys, you have all these immersion ships. They constantly lose their anchors, and then they have that anchor slap over the seabed for 100 miles. We might do a support mission into Russia to teach your commercial fleet how to sail those ships, because it seems to be very difficult for you guys, if there is no other intention. And one of the things I learned with Baltic Sentry is that when something is called an activity and not a mission, you do not need 32 approval. So I said, from now on, we only will have activities and no missions, because it speeds up the decision-making process. They brought together this whole activity, I should not say mission, in 10 days. And this was, I think, one of the fastest deployed activities in NATO history. Yeah.
Perfect. Italy has also somehow managed to sneak in 2 questions. I'm not going to take this one. I'm taking one that fits here. It says, in a world like today's, how does NATO plan to increase its defense against cyber attacks? And how specifically will artificial intelligence be used to pursue this target?
Yeah, well, obviously this is key. So I've been personally speaking to technology experts on this, but of course that's me as an historian trying to understand that new technology. Don't leave it with me. But obviously we have experts in NATO, in the military side, in the international staff, in the military committee led by Admiral Dragonis. So we have these experts in the building, and I think that's particularly crucial. Again, this is to the underlying issue of cyber, hybrids, and making sure that we can defend ourselves. And that our adversaries know, of course, what we do against them. I don't know, that's for allies. But it is from them to us that we stand ready and that we are not naive.
See, I've wondered how Italy sneaked in so many questions. Now I see the Admiral, now I know it's all clear.
Pino is an Italian passport holder. Yeah.
See, I think we have time for one very quick question and an even quicker answer. Justin Anthony Roven from Canada. Do you think it'd be possible for a Canadian like me to become NATO Secretary General one day?
Absolutely, Justin. I have no idea. It's not Justin Trudeau, I think. No, it's just asking for a friend. No. This is absolutely possible. I think there is a sort of tradition that the NATO Secretary General, I think, is non-American. I'm not sure, only European. I think so far it has not been Canadians. But the idea always has been, I think, from the start, that it is wise because of the US presence in Europe with all the enablers to have the most senior military commander to be an American. And that will continue to be so over the next years. And then for the Secretary General to be a European. But I'm now looking at the Dutch ambassador to NATO. Is there anything against a Canadian one day to become Secretary General? No, I couldn't think of it. So, Justin, apply, but not now. There is no vacancy. Yeah,
there is no vacancy. There is also no more time.
No,
Secretary General, many thanks.
Thank you, sir.
That was very good. Good luck. Fingers crossed for the next 2 days. Make the most of it. Thank you for mentioning Germany so often. I hope my own government has taken note.
Ask me before to do that.
Yeah, I get lots of brownie points for this, so this is great. Can we now have the Dutch Prime Minister up with us? We're honored to have you here. You need to leave straight away, I've been told, but you now have to work. Over to you, Prime Minister.
And it there?
Yeah, we go. Thank you.